Like, I disagree on this basis, I disagree, and then we don't reject each other or try to harm each other, then what would happen, it would start to go deeper. And as it goes deeper, you start to hit the idea that it isn't a matter of getting through this crisis on a deeper level, the level of the soul, or the level of imagination, or the level of story. It's about reimagining health. It's about reimagining economics. It's about reimagining the relationship between human culture and nature.
But I think there's a lot of people who's sort of stirred at the level of soul are actually saying, well, wait a second, like, do we want to go back to normal, quote, given exactly what you're saying too on the climate emergency now, sort of, rushing in from every direction, that normal wasn't working for certainly a lot of people in many parts of the world, and not even that great for the people that it, quote, was working for. So without that willingness to sit down, or even the humility to actually say, actually, we don't know, where do we go, and being able to make contact in a humble way in that sense. First of all, of course, any politician would say that would be suicide, because politicians are meant to know exactly where to go, because that's sort of generally what the populace puts on them, right? If they appear uncertain, it's like, okay, let's get the next guy who transacts certainty. So I'm understanding why it didn't happen, but I would say that deep longing for it to happen, certainly within me and maybe Zamir and others, that's like a great loss of this moment, that the willingness to stand in the dark and say, what might come.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very challenging thing to people who have been educated and had dedicated their lives to being in charge of the plan. But they were never in charge of the plan. And anybody who's marginalized by the plan knows that. It was always sacrificing people in the margins to keep the people in the center of the plan, believing in the system that wasn't delivering healthcare anyway, and so on. I mean, whatever area of life you take right now, I mean, it's called healthcare, but it doesn't provide health and it doesn't care. The system is not healing. I mean, because it's a system based on not understanding healing. And so I think the issue, if we were all able to be in the same story, problematic, you can't even be in the same room often. But anyway, if we were, then it would be, if the struggle was honest, like, I disagree on this basis, I disagree, and then we don't reject each other or try to harm each other, then what would happen, it would start to go deeper. And as it goes deeper, you start to hit the idea that it isn't a matter of getting through this crisis on a deeper level, the level of the soul, or the level of imagination, or the level of story. It's about reimagining health. It's about reimagining economics. It's about reimagining the relationship between human culture and nature. It's about reimagining cosmology. The idea, so one of the things about, God, there's so many problems in the modern world, but one of them is that mass cultures, in an automatic, systemic way, deny the uniqueness of the individual. That's why you have so many people kind of taking strange positions about being individual, is because they're trying to somehow be seen as an individual. And so, so mass cultures are damaging to the health of the soul. And I'm not saying that it's up to the individual to save the world. I'm not that interested in the hero's journey. I mean, it's a great story, and I've studied it and learned it, and on and on. And yet it's terribly muscular. It tends to be masculine, and it tends to ride over or grab, snatch and run. It tends to take over, and it doesn't work anymore. And so there needs to be this basis that imagines in a different, non-heroic way the immediate value of each individual person, which is where all health is aimed anyway, ultimately. And I think that's the struggle that we're in, and that at different times we're in different parts of the story or the territory of that, what that means. And honestly, I just don't see solutions coming from the mainstream. because the mainstream thinks that there is a normal. But when you get to dealing with actual humans, there is no normal human. Each human is unique, just as each tree in the forest is unique. There may be 1,000 cedar trees, but each one is unique. Nature only makes originals, and we're trying to get back to nature. And the way to get back is to become our original self. And that means we die before we die.
Mm.